We interrupt this program for a special news bulletin.
Throws toward the corner of the end zone. It is intercepted! Intercepted! The Ducks have the ball!
To the end zone! Touchdown, Oregon! Mariota dives! Touchdown! They hand it off straight out! C.J. Burdell wins the game for Oregon!
Inside the 10! A hat-trick, a touchdown from Justin Herbert! Howard's going to run for it. Time runs out, and that'll do it! Welcome to the Big Ten, Oregon! They storm the field at Autzen!
All right, Duck fans, here we go. Welcome into another episode of the Ducks Rising podcast, sponsored by Backer and Water Ave Coffee. My name is Zachary. Neel, my co-host, Travis Rooke-Ley. Travis, what's up, man? How we doing?
Good. Just finished going through the replay this morning. Looking forward to a little non-stressful bye week, last one of the year before things start to really ramp up.
Do we consider this non-stressful? I'm stressed. Like, I don't know. The next month of games, we're going to get into it, but I'm already stressed about Iowa.
Oh, 1,000%. It's nice to be able to at least watch a little bit of football this week and try to kind of put that off mentally. But yeah, it's that one is looming, certainly.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting one. Like you said, bye-week show coming for you guys. Chance for us to kind of take a collective breath and reset before the final stretch run. It's going to be I think, entertaining final month of the regular season. We're going to break down what we saw in the Wisconsin game. Travis had a great talk with Ted from that show out west. They talked a little bit about the Iowa game. We are then going to hold our own discussion about the coaching carousel that we tabled last week. And then we're going to give some early thoughts of our own on the Iowa game and the rest of the season, kind of before we take some Autzen Airwaves questions and get out of here. Before that, some housekeeping, though. If you have not seen it yet, Jeff Schwartz's Film Room went live earlier today. Tuesday as we record this. He broke down some very important stuff from the Wisconsin game, especially on the offensive side of the ball. We've also got Alumni Corner with former Oregon wide receiver DJ Davis. Travis did that one earlier today. How'd that one go?
Awesome, man. I mean, DJ is a very inspirational guy to talk to, I would say. He's now into, he's doing, motivational coaching and public speaking and some counseling and mentorship and different things. So it was super cool to just not only hear about his football experience, but what he's doing these days is God's work. It's just so important the way he's touching lives and different things and still staying in athletics a little bit. So super cool to hear from him and just get some obviously some stories of the chip times and what that was like being part of that 2010 team. I think all of us remember him as that iconic picture with the Gatorade bath on Chip at the end of that Oregon State game. So definitely encourage fans to check it out.
Yeah, that's awesome. I can't wait to listen to that one. All right, with that out of the way, we're going to get into the meat of our show. But first, Travis, I noticed that you were wearing your backer gear this weekend. I think it got some pretty good use. You got your money's worth out of that?
I have to say, I mean, I have been hyping backer for a long time, but can't say I've ever truly needed it. Saturday, for those who were at Autzen, that was certainly the time and place for a jacket like this. And I just have to say, I mean, I know it's expensive, but boy, is it worth it. I was with a group of 6 other people, north side, no cover in sight. I had a hoodie on underneath all game, and that thing was bone dry at the end of the night. So I was just incredibly grateful. The hood coverage on my head, just all the way down to my everything. I was just incredibly impressed with it in the actual environments we talk about. And I've been going to games like this for a long time. 2013 Cal game, other rainy games at Autzen, and never had anything like it. So I'm just here to give the ultimate endorsement for those guys over there and their product. It was absolutely elite for a weather game like that.
How did this compare to 2013 Cal? I was not at that game. I was at college in Colorado then, and I was not in the rain for this game. I was up in the dry, cold press box, but I at least was dry. So what was it like for you?
That was worse for sure.
Okay, that was
soon. Totally. The first half wasn't bad, especially the first quarter was totally fine. But that second half, if you didn't have REI level, backer level rain gear, you were just done. We were surrounded by many people who I think just thought, your classic windbreaker or just some in a straight hoodie was going to suffice. So I have to imagine come mid-fourth quarter, they were a little cold.
I can't believe that Dan goes out there every week and he's just in soft shell sweatshirt. They've got this. They need a sponsorship with backer. He can be dry on the sideline.
Mind you, Dan in the hoodie, but Wilson Love's out there just pacing like a maniac in his t-shirt.
He's a psychopath. That's you can never take anything that Wilson Love does without a grain of salt. That he is an insane person.
I don't think he stopped moving for even a second the whole time I would watch him. And it was getting in the second half there, and you have like the Oregon huddles, and he's kind of on the outside, just like circling, yelling. And I can't imagine what his pregame dietary regimen looks like and fluid intake.
I think it's like 20 cups of Peruvian coffee a day. Like, I'm pretty sure that, like, there was a Bussin' with the Boys video with him, and they saw him at like 6 a.m. He's like, I'm already on cup 5 of coffee. Like, he's a different animal.
Makes sense.
We're already kind of in it. Let's get into Wisconsin. You put out a tweet earlier today, and I think it's a really good point. Pretty apt analysis of where this team is at right now. You're growing concerned with the offense. I would agree. We're not quite in panic mode, but we're just, there's some slight worry there. Explain.
Yeah, I just think it's fair to question, is our offense good? Those of you who are listening to this now, I think you will talk to, you'll hear our conversation with Ted, and that was the first question I asked him, is like, is the Oregon team good? I'm not truly sure that we know at this point. I just think we've beat up on 4 to 5 pretty inept defenses. We've faced 3 what I would call above average defenses, and we've struggled in all 3 of those games. I think up to this point, it's constantly been, at least in my head, this narrative of like, well, it's just been one little thing this drive, one little thing. We fixed that small thing this drive. We fixed this thing the next drive, we're going to be fine. It's like, at this point, to me, it's just kind of a pattern, and I'm not sure that I don't know where things go. We're going to know in November. We're going to have some clear answers probably coming out of Iowa what the answer is, but I think anyone that's adamant right now and saying like, we have an elite offense or we have an elite team, I just disagree with that assessment.
Yeah, the only thing I would critique is I think we know this offense is good. I don't know if it's great. It's just defining what's good, what's great, what the standard is. I mean, I think this offense is good enough to get this team to be 10-2, or this team is good enough to be 10-2. Is that your standard? Is that what you're expecting? That what you're hoping for? No, I think we want this team to be 11-1 and make the playoff. Will they make the playoff at 10-2? It's a different conversation that we can maybe have later in this podcast. But yeah, it's just I've kind of planted my flag on the Will Stein side of things. Like, I think he is a good coordinator. I think he's a very good coach. I think that when this offense is clicking, they're really good. But these past few days have been a little bit tough because it's like, I don't know, man. Yeah, there is a track record of them going up against top half of the nation defenses and struggling a little bit. So, yeah, that's kind of why I'm concerned about this Iowa game, because Iowa has a very good defense, and that's on the road, and it's probably going to be a 9 a.m. kick Pacific time. So it'll be interesting to see. Like you said, we're going to learn a lot for sure. Yeah,
I just think at a point, I went through in my takeaways, and I went through watching the replay, like those first 5 or 6 drives that we struggled on, like what went wrong each time. And I just think you eventually get to the point where you're doing that against Wisconsin. We had the same conversation coming out of Indiana, like, oh, let's look through the drive chart. Oh, it's just this thing here, this thing there. We had the same conversation coming out of Penn State. We couldn't convert. So I think our offensive line is playing at a solid level. I think our receivers are okay to pretty good. If you take out DeCorey and Moore, like, not awesome. I think that our running backs have had a lot of rotation. I think we're finally to a spot where, like, that unit's playing well. I think you've seen in our 3 biggest games, Dante's been good, but definitely struggled at times. So, I don't know. I think you have to measure yourself against the teams that you're going to have to beat. And you can inflate your statistics all you want against the Oklahoma States and Rutgers of the world, but we have 51 combined points against the 3 real defenses we've played. Like, that's just not in regulation. That's just not a standard that is where this program needs to be if we're trying to win a playoff game. It's just really I just can't get over the fact that as an Oregon watcher, it's just really strange to be like, we have zero concern about the defense. They're so good. But then you get to the offense, it's like, I'm not quite sure. Like, it's just a very unfamiliar feeling when you're watching this team. Totally. And, I totally see a world in which this can click in come Iowa and give us rocket fuel, and we go from there. So I think that's totally on the table, and I'm just here to like say I'm questioning where we're at. I'm not one way or the other. I'm not, sounding the alarm bells like crazy, saying that we don't have a, Oregon level offense by any means. I'm just saying we haven't been presented with evidence quite yet that this unit can go into Iowa or score at the, to compete with the SCs of the world. Washington's going to put up some points, but I find myself really focused on that Iowa game, and I think that the blueprint has been provided now by Indiana, Iowa, and Wisconsin of how to slow us down. Unfortunately for us, Iowa can do that better than any of those three teams can themselves. So we've got 10 days to figure it out, but I don't know. I just left that game. I know there's weather. I know that it was windy still in the first half, even when it was dry. But there's bigger structural concerns with the offense that I think need to get ironed out.
I agree. And for all the listeners, I'm sorry if you hear a leaf blower going on outside my window, and my dog is also barking. So I'm not quite sure what's going on, but maybe we can clean this up in post-production. But I apologize. I'm also just kind of done knowing what to expect from this team. I feel very stupid every week when it's I think they're going to come out, and I predicted 38-0. I thought they were going to have a relatively easy time scoring. I thought the defense was going to be great. It wasn't that, because I think they struggled a lot more on offense than we thought. We thought that they, going to Rutgers, thought they might struggle a little bit because you had the loss, you had the cross-travel trip, you had all of this stuff, and it's they actually were incredible. So, we're kind of stressed about this Iowa game, think it might be tough. I think we said it last week. I wouldn't be surprised if they go out and win by 50. I could just see this team doing that, because I'm kind of done just knowing what they're going to look like each week. It really confuses me as someone who thinks I know at least a little bit about football and can at least kind of expect what we're going to see. I don't know with this team anymore.
I think thankfully there's a group of things working in our favor that theoretically should help us moving forward. I mean, I think the running back rotation has gotten to a point where that's in the best shape it's been all year. I mean, those three, mostly top two right now, with Hill kind of being sprinkled in, that seems like it's in a good spot. Those guys are running hard. Those guys are running well. Jordan Davison has been a revelation. And that's the type of thing you're going to need to beat Iowa. I know we have the rumors of Evan Stewart's return. I think that he's going to provide, as we get later into the season, a little more of a deep, explosive threat that we probably need to give Dante just some more opportunities. I think the offensive line, you'd think in theory they're only going to get better game by game. The more continuity, the more they're playing together, the more those guys develop. So got to think that gets better. I know Kenyon Sadiq's been a little bit dinged lately. Hope the bye week helps with him, get him more involved in the offense. So the factors are there. It's just a matter of can we go into a challenging environment like Iowa, and can everything finally click where we're not looking back drive by drive and saying, we were so close on this drive, if we just get that one pass, we're so close, this one guy blocked. So I feel it's the perfect type of game to put it all together.
Yeah, it'd be a really big statement game. I think it would calm a lot of nerves for sure, this one of all games. I feel like we should probably talk about the backup quarterback situation. We talked about it a lot last week. We said that we were going to revisit this week. It was funny that we questioned, if it would be Brock or Austin or Luke in a game that was actually close, where they actually needed someone to play really well. Didn't take long to find out that the answer is it's still going to be Brock. It was 7-0 when he came in, when Dante went down with a very profusely bleeding nose and spent 17 minutes in the medical tent. Credit to Brock, he played well. I mean, he managed the game really well. Went 4 for 4, 46 yards, 1 touchdown, led 2 touchdown drives. He was fine. I'm still left kind of unconvinced, I would say, just at the whole situation. I don't know. How do you feel?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I think, there's all these bigger ramification pictures. A lot of the stuff we talked about last week of what was this whole offseason charade, all that stuff. I don't know. At this point, I don't really feel like it's worth getting into. I think that if Brock Thomas comes into a game like this, where Oregon has a lead, we're running the ball with success, I totally think he can be the type of quarterback that can get us over the finish line and win us a game. My worry would be we need him in a game we're down 7, and he needs to, make plays, throw the ball around a little bit. I know he went 4 for 4. I mean, it should have been 3 for 4 with an interception, which was the last thing you can do in that situation. So I know there's a lot of people just saying he played amazing and did an amazing job out there. Like, credit to him. Anytime you're a walk-on, you come in that situation and you win us the ball game, you did your job, no doubt. Like, I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat that. At the same time, I think like some of the praise has gotten a little bit egregious to that level when it comes to his stats and what he can do moving forward. But I don't know. I mean, there's nothing else we can really say or do at this point. It's clear he's the backup. I don't expect it to change the rest of the year. I would think at some point we get an answer when it comes to both Novosad and Luke Moga, because if it was just one of them, I think you could talk yourself into different explanations. The fact that it's both of them just like makes you curious as to what's really going on. But I think it's safe to say Dan kind of planted his flag after the game, and I'm going to assume we're not going to get much more info until probably December or after the season, even when the portal opens up.
I mean, we're not going to get more info because I think that he's kind of said stop asking, like he's not going to tell us anything. There's still a lot more info that we need, but what I'm just so curious about is like that was a game clearly where the offense, I think at the point when Brock came in, needed 3, maybe 7 more points to win that game. If they were playing USC or Washington and they knew that the offense still needed 21 more points, is it still Brock? Do you have, or do you bring someone in with maybe a little bit more high upside like Novosad or Moga, who can really, it's an impossible question to answer because we don't know what they look like.
I think it's still Brock. I really do. Man. I mean, I just don't. I don't think you can prepare guys differently for like different situations like that. I think if the reps and the stuff throughout the week and mixing in your backup, like those are all things like you dedicate real time to. I don't see this staff allocating 3 different guys to getting like backup 2 reps and like getting ready to be in a game. There's a real difference in practice during the week between like the 1s and the 2s and then guys who are like getting mixed in or playing scout team. And they know now that they need Brock ready to play, and I would just be surprised if they're getting now 3 different backups ready for different situations. So I don't know. I could be proven wrong, but I think he's the guy for the rest of this year. It's clear he has the trust of the staff. It's clear he's demonstrated in practice that he's the next guy up. It seems like the team is around him, and I think as long as he's in the game in like advantageous situations, I honestly think it's fine. He's a good runner. You can tell he has command of the offense. You can tell that he can move the ball a little bit, move the pocket a little bit. I mean, I think there's things that can do that can hold on to win a game. I just don't know if he can win a game, which is what we were told Autzen Novosad could do all offseason. That's just the weird part.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just left so confused about the whole situation. Yeah. Fortunately, I mean, Dante, I think, will be fine. Dan has not spoken yet publicly this week since Saturday, so he'll hold a press conference tomorrow. I'm sure he'll be asked about that and talk about that. But it appears that Dante will be okay, at least for next week's Iowa game. It's also a very advantageous week to have a bye week after your quarterback goes down. But he did say after the game that they thought he could play again if they needed him to, but they felt like they were in a fine situation. So, I don't know. We'll see. All right, I want to get to your conversation with Ted, but first I've got to ask you, is there anything better than getting an unexpected package in the mail? That's like truly one of the best joys in life as an adult, I think. Would you agree?
No, I'm right up there with it.
A package showed up at my door yesterday. Lo and behold, our good friends at Water Ave Coffee with another blend of the 4th quarter fuel. Right on time, because I'm almost out of my first bag. This stuff's the best, man. You can see it. I've got it right there. I've got it as my little desk decor right now, but soon I'm going to have to take it down and open it up. But this stuff's great. I really love this Water Ave Coffee.
Yeah, just the great thing about Water Ave is not only they're like an amazing partner, Oregon fans, Oregon people, but they got this amazing Oregon line like Zach mentioned. So OregonDucksCoffee.com is the URL. We'll try to make sure we pop it in the podcast description. But one-offs, subscriptions, everything. Zach and myself, like he mentioned, I mean, there's nothing better than being on the little subscription models. Every 2 weeks, a little present surprise shows up to the house. But for those of you just showing up with the holiday season and getting into November and December, one-off gifts for, Oregon Duck fans, coffee lovers out there. or just like we mentioned, the subscriptions that run year round. They send you kind of a different bag, different design each time. You get some of the special one-offs they did, like the Grateful Dead one this week, and some other stuff that's being planned. So great time to hop aboard, another way to support the program, and most importantly, like Zach said, like amazing coffee.
I didn't even know, like, are we on the subscription model? Is that what this was? I thought it was a nice little present. I was like kind of saving the coffee because I didn't know if I was going to get more of it, and now I'm getting more. So it's like,
no,
right,
you're on the sub.
More coffee.
You're selling it. You're on the sub.
Let's go, man. I love it. I'm happy. All right. Okay, let's get to your conversation with Ted, and then we will jump back and talk about our Iowa thoughts.
Excited to be joined on the podcast this week by Ted Leroux from That Show Out West. Ted, grateful to be joined by you. How you doing this morning?
I'm good. Always good to talk to you, Travis. It's always a good time to be able to chat. We've got 8 down, 4 to go, so we're kind of at this point in the season where it's like, time to kick it into full gear, so I'm ready to chat.
I feel you. I'm right there with you. I'm enjoying my last kind of bye-week reprieve this week where I don't have to be stressed beyond belief the entire week going into the game, so gonna enjoy this Saturday, and then it really ramps up. So I want to start with just a simple question that I've been thinking about this morning, and the answer, unfortunately, is not what I thought it was maybe a month ago, but we'll just start with this. Is Oregon good?
$64,000 question. I think they're good. If you talk about great or elite, you might be talking about a different type of conversation, I think, with this team. I think Oregon's at a spot where I think a lot of people maybe expected them to be at the beginning of the season. I think you asked a lot of people, they might throw out 11-1. Some people throw out 10-2. Personally, I had them, with the record that they have now, I had thought that would be the case at the beginning of the year, losing to the second best team in the Big Ten. I just thought it would be Penn State. It turns out it's Indiana at this point in time. But, the Indiana game, maybe parts of this Wisconsin game. I know the Wisconsin game, of course, had a lot of weather and rain and everything that was happening out there in Eugene. Of course, maybe that had an effect on some parts of the game. But there's been some parts of the team that in some of these matchups this year have kind of, I don't know if exposed is the right word. I don't know if that's kind of puts it is too bluntly a little bit, but yeah, it just, you look at some parts like, the linebacker play maybe, some of the offensive line play and the inconsistencies up front in the O-line, sometimes Dante and being able to handle different things, the simulated pressures in zone coverage, for example, that Indiana threw at them. So it's tough. I think that this is a good team. Okay, but I think they're kind of in the boat that maybe we expected them to be at the beginning of the year, where it's like, okay, yeah, this is a team that can get into the college football playoff. Maybe they can win a college football playoff game, but are they on the level of an Ohio State, an Indiana, and maybe some of these other national championship contenders? Maybe not. You look at Ohio State right now, specifically defensively. I mean, that's an elite group. Matt Patricia got those boys flying around, and I think, you compare that to what Oregon has, and I think there's certainly some differences, especially when you really look at linebacker play. So, good team, I'd probably say yes, but once you elevate beyond that, I think it's maybe open up for a little bit more discussion, certainly.
It's been a challenging one because I'm with you about the inconsistencies, and I just wonder at what point do the inconsistencies just turn into a larger systemic problem and maybe lead me to the question of, are we just good but not great or elite? And I think that the hard thing about that is going to this challenging November slate of I'm going through possession by possession of the Wisconsin game last week, and I'm like, God, we just missed one little thing here, then the next drive one little thing here, and it's I feel like I've been saying that a lot, and at what point does that just turn into a larger issue of we can't seem to get everything right, so at what point is that just an indictment on our team in general?
Yeah, it's true. And you talk about that November coming up, after this bye week, I said at the beginning of this, I'm like, hey, now's the time to kick it into gear. You got to use that November as kind of the bridge to playing your best football in December and January. Iowa is going to be a big challenge. It is going to be a big challenge, considering maybe some of the inconsistencies that you talked about, dare I say weaknesses, with stuff on the offensive line. Iowa's got a good defensive front, man. They do, and they can run the football as well. And when you take a look at maybe the challenges that the linebackers have done, being able to take that first aggressive step up and read the play correctly. I mean, Iowa's got the top run blocking offensive line in the country, according to Pro Football Focus right now. And then you look at USC and Washington. that's going to be their Super Bowl. I mean, they're going to bring everything in their power to be able to beat Oregon, and they've been playing some decent football themselves, at certain points this season. So it's they got to use this bye week to go to the doctor of all doctors, might you say, and really correct these things, because every single team the remainder of the year is gonna be gunning for these guys, and I think we're really gonna find out now what type of team this is. Are they going to have, is like Dante going to have some of these maybe the same issues that you have? I hate to say issues, because I think it's just maybe smaller parts of his game that can be really corrected. And defensively, is the linebacking group going to be able to take steps forward now as we kind of get in to the stretch? We're really going to find out just what kind of team we got coming up. So it's going to be really fun to see exactly how this develops.
You teed it up for me because I wanted to ask you about that November slate a little bit, and I can probably read into it by your answers you just mentioned. But how would you power rank that November slate in terms of traps for us when it comes to those 4 games?
Okay, I'm glad you said traps, because if you're like power ranking the team specifically, it might be a little bit different. I go Iowa number 1. I know Washington in Seattle, like that's going to be its own different type of challenge, considering the rivalry and the vitriol between those two states. But it's Iowa. They just play a different style of football. And it's if you're not used to watching it, you kind of look at it and you might poke fun at it a little bit, especially before they hired Tim Lester and Brian Ferentz and all that stuff. But the Brian Ferentz kind of issues, I think those have kind of come and gone. This is at the very least maybe a respectable offense in what they got there. But I mean, you look at that game against Minnesota, they're scoring defensive touchdowns, they're scoring special teams touchdowns. They just drag you down, they drag you into the mud, and they can just find a way to make those couple of plays. And then you put them at Kinnick Stadium. I mean, that just adds another layer on top of it. So last time coming out of the bye week, Oregon didn't play their best against Indiana. Now Indiana's a better team, more talented team than Iowa right now. You look at those matchups, like you should be able, like Iowa, like they're obviously not Wisconsin. They're not quite that bad, certainly, but this is not a team that's going to hurt you down the field. In theory, Oregon should dedicate a lot of resources to be able to stop this run, and they should be able to contain it. But Iowa's really good in that RPO game, and the run game with Mark Gronowski this year is kind of another layer that we've seen added on to that Hawkeyes team. And then you talk about that defensive front as well. So it's that's got to be number 1, I think, for me. I think when you kind of move on from there, I'd probably say the Washington game sitting there at number 2. I think they've got a pretty favorable schedule the rest of the way. And I think maybe the reason, obviously the rivalry in and of itself is kind of one layer to this. You look at the way that DeMond and company is playing out there. I know, I look at DeMond and he's very much an electric quarterback. He's a really fun quarterback to watch. But like when Michigan keeps him in the pocket, maybe you see a little bit more struggles for him. But now you get a Washington team that's like 9-2. Now we got a rivalry. Oh, now Washington has a chance to beat Oregon and get to the playoff. That just adds a lot more extra juice on top of it. And I'd probably go USC sitting there at number 3. USC provides their own set of challenges, with what they can do over the top in the passing game. They've been, we'll call it, inconsistent at the line of scrimmage. Some better games, some maybe not as good games. And then I think you got a team right there in Minnesota. And Minnesota, although they got blown off the field against Iowa, like they're not a bad team. They're still a solid Big Ten team that can maybe present some challenges even at Autzen Stadium. So, that's kind of how I would probably order those challenges coming up.
Yeah, well, for the record, I'm right with you. That's how I'd rank it as well. And as you said, I mean, even that Minnesota game, short week, Friday night, coming off of hopefully a big road win. So I think each of them will present the unique challenges. Specifically to Iowa, I'm with you. I mean, I think that what they can do is take the blueprint that Indiana, Penn State, and Wisconsin had and do it in a lot of ways at a better level, like you mentioned. I was just looking through some scores this morning and different things, and I mean, we've scored 17 in regulation against Penn State. We scored 13 offensive points in regulation against Indiana, and we scored 21 technically, but really only Dante had 7 against Wisconsin. So I think the scary thing about that game is the blueprint's out there, and as you said, Iowa can execute that blueprint to a pretty good level.
And they can. Phil Parker is just a master for the defensive coordinator for the Hawkeyes out there. And then you take a look at the Iowa defense. I mean, Iowa played the best that anybody has played Indiana this whole year, okay? They did a great job, kind of containing what they did in the run game with the RPO, playing some physical man coverage out there on the outside. Like that's kind of what I thought the blueprint. We talk about blueprints that maybe Oregon would implement against IU. IU was just able to execute at a high level against the Ducks, specifically in that matchup. But yeah, it's a good unit. They're going to be tested. I think if there's maybe some positives we can take out of that Wisconsin game, a hard-fought victory, tough Big Ten type of style matchup, that's the way you're going to have to play against Iowa. Even if you're feeling like you're playing a really good game, I think that's the way you're going to have to be able to win against the Hawkeyes. So, if you can take anything, maybe you can kind of carry that over a little bit. But I'm really interested to see how this offensive line can play against Iowa consistently for 60 minutes. Wisconsin, we saw them come out. Run game wasn't great early in the game. Guys weren't getting to the second level. And then eventually they got their feet under them. Okay, now we're getting to the second level. Noah's getting big runs. Jordan Davison's getting big runs. These guys are now they're getting big chunk yardage. And now that's obviously helping some things out when there was no passing game really an option in that monsoon in Eugene. So, yeah, it's just – I know this one's got me a little bit – I'm not sure – I'm kind of glad I got more time to look at this game because right now – I have no idea how to feel about this game. If you're, Duck fans, I'll say this, root for Big Noon. I know 9 a.m. kickoffs aren't great for West Coast teams traveling. You get that thing under the lights, that's a different animal. That is a different animal out there, and I think that makes it a little bit more difficult. So very curious to see what time this one is going to be kicked off as well.
Well, thankfully, Notre Dame has the 4:30 NBC slot. So
okay. So
it sounds like it's either 9 or 12:30, which I think I maybe lean 12:30, 2:30 local, just because you're probably not getting into quite nighttime territory, but you're not getting the sleepy 9 a.m. But I'm with you. At the start of the season, I was like, anything but nighttime, please. So one more question about that, as Big Ten Ted himself, who's probably watched more Iowa in your life than any of us have watched. What if you're Will Stein and you've got a bye week and you're trying to get us ready for that game? What does our offense need to do to have success? Because I think our defense can have success in this game. I will be pretty frustrated, honestly, if we don't put 8 people in the bucket and just beg Gronowski to beat us. So, go ahead.
I think the thing with Iowa, you need to especially when you have the talent and the explosiveness as Oregon that Oregon has, you need to be able to force them to score 30 points. Essentially is what. So you need to get those explosive plays. You need to force them to kind of be able to play catch up because their comfort zone is 20-17, if we're talking about close games here, even though they've been able to put up some good amount of points when they've been able to control a game so far this season. That's where you need to be able to get this thing. Dare I say a track meet type of style back and forth for Will Stein. Really try to attack those defensive backs. Now, the DBs, I think earlier in the season, even dating back to last year, they were giving up a fair amount of explosive plays. It maybe wasn't the days of Cooper DeJean out there on the outside. You go back a couple years before that. Riley Moss, who's playing in the NFL as well, was really good out there on the outside. They don't have that type of superstar corner. You can even talk about Sebastian Castro, who's playing in their cash spot, which is essentially the equivalent to the star for Oregon. But yeah, I think you got to be able to stretch these guys down the field. Their defensive line and their linebackers. It doesn't matter who you plug in there at linebacker. They're going to have an all-conference linebacker. I mean, they got a guy, Carson Shire, in the middle of this defense who's just been waiting his turn. He's been biding his time for multiple years in this Iowa system, and you just come on and that's just what they do. They spit out really good linebackers, among other things. But considering the inconsistencies we talked about in the offensive line, I'm not sure. I'm not sure about the run game and how successful it's going to be. So I think really taking advantage of Decorian, Malik Benson, and company out there on the outside, I think that's the advantage. And I think that was the perceived advantage in Wisconsin before, the rain and the monsoon and the wind all kind of prevented that from happening down the field. So if you can continually attack down the field, especially in the deep middle, I mean, Kenyon Sadiq. I mean, I feel like on my program, every week I say it. Let's get Kenyon Sadiq 4 catches, 5 catches, whatever it is in this game. Let's work the middle of the field. Get him against the safety. Get him against the linebacker. Like, that's another thing. Getting right down the seam, 15 yards down the field, 20 yards down the field, something like that, against maybe these maybe not as athletic linebackers and safeties. So that's a mismatch. But no, it's been a mismatch against every team, it seems like. I talk about it every single week. So that's, I think, where I think Will Stein wants to be able to live, is just show how much more athletic you are and force them to be able to score at the level that you can score with. But like you said, this is an offense that maybe hasn't put up the most points in production against some of the better defenses that they face. So got to be able to have this extra week to be able to game plan, to be able to let it rip, and really scheme up some of those one-on-one matchups down the field.
Yeah, to me, it's such an early rhythm game when it comes to the offense. Yep. I mean, if you can just build a lead, similar to kind of how Oregon fans have thought about games against Stanford, Utah, teams like that in the past. Yep. I mean, these are teams that if Iowa looks completely different when they're up 10-0 versus down 10-0. Mm-hmm. And especially going into that environment and what we've seen from Dante Moore over the last few games of he clearly needs to get in a rhythm early, or he just looks different as a quarterback. So for me, those yep. first 2-3 drives are just going to be massive in how this game looks down the line.
Yeah, and especially trying to take the crowd as much out of it early and try to get him to be able to settle in, of course, is another big thing. Yeah, that's kind of the way it seems. I'm glad you kind of brought that up. Is those first couple of drives when he's able to really fire it and he's throwing it. We've seen these sort of 20 yards on a dime, 30 yards on a dime, and he's able to go down there and create a lot of confidence. Those are the games that normally translate into him putting up, multiple touchdowns, not turning the football over, 200 yards in a game, maybe close to 300 yards in a game, or maybe being some of his best games. So being able to do that, and Iowa's going to, like you said, use that blueprint. They're going to try to come after Dante early. They're going to try to rattle him early. So really good play from the O-line early in this game could be a determining factor to see how this game goes the rest of the way.
I want to end it here and just think a little down the line, moving forward this season. What are a couple things you would need to see from this team in November that would solidify them as a true contender? I think a lot of us coming out of Penn State probably felt we might have been there. I think we're questioning that now. Obviously, beyond winning, what units or personnel groupings or scheme stuff would you need to see to feel like we can make a real run at this thing if we make it?
Well, I think the first thing to be able to lay this out is, let's, I guess, focus first on the defensive side. Feel really good about the D-line. I think the D-line's doing really good. I think there's maybe some games where you see, like Mateo Uiagalelei, for example. I mean, there's some games where it just seems like he's just maybe not as there consistently as someone like on the other side, like Tatum Tuioti is. But I still feel really good about that unit. I mean, Bear has established himself next to Amari. You look at the secondary. I mean, it is night and day how this secondary has progressed, since maybe last year or the years before, just how much more talented they are. For me, it's the middle. For me, it's the linebackers. You're going to face teams that are going to run the ball. Iowa's going to run the football. Minnesota's going to run the football. Maybe not as much with USC and Washington, even though the Huskies do have Jonah Coleman in their backfield out there. But I want to see better play. I want to see more disciplined play from this linebacker unit, because maybe that's a unit, where that could be a little bit of a hinge point in how far exactly they can go when all is said and done. Offensive side, we've talked about it already in this segment. More consistency from the offensive line, I believe, is going to be needed, because when this whole line is playing good, they can smash some people up front in the run game. And when they're protecting Dante, that's when things really get uncorked down the field. And you talk about the future. I mean, it's Evan Stewart maybe back sometime late November. That's going to add another element down the field. The thing about Oregon and what I kind of look for is they got so much speed, maybe more than anybody, with Dak, maybe Evan coming back, and then Malik Benson on the outside. They need to really utilize that, and of course the athleticism that Kenyon Sadiq provides over at tight end. So I think what I want to see down the field is let's see that explosiveness. Let's make some big plays down the field, because when Oregon is really doing that, they can be as good as any offense in the country. And I think right now, one thing that I'd like to see more of down the stretch, feed Agent Zero. Feed Jordan Davison. I mean, I think he has really started to evolve as the top back right now. I think maybe the injury to Jaden Lamar has kind of helped him maybe propel to that role as maybe one of the top guys faster. But I think these past 2 games, 100 yards, the past couple of games against Rutgers and Wisconsin, he's proven that I think, can be relied on, and he's developing at a really good rate right now. So I think really leaning into him in the run game. So I think it comes down to consistent O-line, better play from the linebackers, and I think you'll still be sitting in a really good spot. I mean, they're right where people expected them to be at this point in the season. It's so hard to tell, like, we kick this thing off with whether they're good, are they really good, are they great? We just don't know. But the month of November, I think, is going to really tell us the story. If they can hit the explosives and really showcase their speed and athleticism on the edge, get better play out of their linebackers, maybe a more consistent pass rush, I think those are things that may be needed to springboard to a successful December and January.
Yeah, I think, from what I can gather, I think Stewart's probably USC-ish time,
Sure.
which I think just his dynamic and what he brings would be massive, and it's why I think me and you were in lockstep that this Iowa game is just so massive, because I think if you can just clear that and just get through that, if you had told any of us at the start of the season, you just got to beat USC and Washington and you're going to be in a great, amazing spot for the playoff and probably in a spot where you can make a true run, like all of us would have signed up for that. So I hope we talk in a couple weeks and we're still sitting pretty in a good spot.
I think they will be. I think they will be. I think the Iowa game, it's going to be tough. But I think when you look at rosters, I still think Oregon's just they're a more talented team. They can beat you in more ways than Iowa can. The thing about Iowa, they have kind of like a small window to victory, right? They haven't been able to. They don't have dynamic pass catchers. They can't. I mean, Gronowski's a decent passer. I'll say that, but they're not going to beat you over the top, right? So being able to play well at the line of scrimmage, you contain the run game. And then you just make enough plays on offense. I mean, look what happened last year when Oregon went to Wisconsin. 16-13 defensive battle. They just had guys that could make more plays. And I think that's the fact of the matter here right now in this Iowa game. So we'll see. That is totally the hinge point. If they come out of a victory with that one, I feel good the rest of the way. I think they're going to be Vegas favorites the rest of the way. But man, Iowa's the first step, and then getting the absolute best shot from your West Coast rivals in USC and Washington are going to be another set of challenges. I can't wait. I can't wait to see how this. It's a young team, to see how they take these challenges head on, to see how the coaching staff kind of approaches it. Oh, it's going to be so much fun.
Well, Ted, I'm grateful for you for coming on today. Always appreciate your perspective, follow your work. And for those people who want to check out what you're doing these days, where can they find you?
Yeah, absolutely. You could find that show at West is the show I do twice a week. Usually do a preview show, a recap show. I always try to do Mondays and Thursdays, but sometimes schedules kind of makes it a Tuesday or a Friday. Gets thrown in there as well. So at Tud on the Ducks over there on Twitter. So yeah, that's where you can catch me. Always love talking with you. Big fan of what you guys are doing over there at Ducks Rising. It'll be fun to follow you the rest of the way, and fun to follow this team the rest of the way.
Appreciate you, man. Well, excited to hop on your pod tomorrow, and we'll be talking throughout the season.
All right, good stuff.
All right, let's talk coaching carousel. We tabled this last week. I think we got pretty lucky with that decision because, lo and behold, the biggest job of the cycle opened up over the weekend with LSU getting rid of Brian Kelly. Before we dive in, I would just like to say how refreshing I think these last 48 hours have been. We both put out stuff right away. You tweeted, I wrote a column basically saying that Dan's not leaving. Don't even think about it. Oregon is fine. I've kept an eye on coaching boards that have come out over the past few days, just kind of keeping tabs. I have not seen one legitimate organization put Dan's name on there. And it's just oh, this is really nice. I like this side of things.
It's unless you believe all the UW fans on Twitter today who plane tracked Eugene to Baton Rouge flight that certainly happened this morning. I feel like we've paid our dues when it comes to these type of worries. I'll never forget the November of 2021 and obviously other times before that, which obviously brought us Dan, so you can't be too upset about it. But yes, it's certainly great to be in a spot where you're not worried about your head coach and you can more so kind of just enjoy the entertainment that the college football carousel provides, but at the same time, like, start to identify, where can Oregon pick up guys. I know that, if we know one thing about our staff, they're going to have some resources ready to poach some guys if they free up and have some eyes on some different rosters and commit lists out there. So I got to imagine that's a fun opportunity for them to start looking through, where can we find guys that will help us next year.
As far as those Baton Rouge flights, I can confirm with 100% confidence that Dan is in Eugene today, as of at least an hour ago. So don't worry about that. He's not in Baton Rouge right now, if you ever even thought that was a possibility. But the Power 4 jobs that are currently open, there are a ton of them. You got LSU, Florida, Penn State at the top, Oregon State, Arkansas, Oklahoma State, UCLA, Virginia Tech, Stanford, Colorado State, UAB, and Kent State. Those jobs are open right now. What very well could be open by the end of the year: Florida State, Wisconsin, North Carolina, Arizona, Michigan State, Auburn, Kentucky, Oklahoma, and South Carolina. Good Lord. This is just getting started. Like, it's insane. Those are a lot of teams. Which ones of those kind of interest you the most? Whether it's how they could impact Oregon, it's certain players that the Ducks may look at in the portal, or recruits. When you look at that list, what are the ones that really stick out to you?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I think that there's a couple different buckets you can look into there. I think when we're trying to identify, players / commit lists that we could be, interested in per se. I think you obviously look at some of those top jobs and top programs that are recruiting and accumulating talent at the level that we would be interested in. So your LSUs, your Floridas, your Penn States of the world. I think all three of those teams have guys on their roster and probably guys on their commit list that we would be interested in. I know we've already offered a couple of them. I'm almost more interested in kind of the coaching repercussions and downstream effects of some of this stuff. Obviously, Will Stein has been mentioned for different jobs out there. The latest I know and have known about him is he's not just going to jump at any opportunity, and I think he's smart enough to understand that he needs a quarterback and he needs resources wherever he's going to go. So one that I'm tracking closely is, I know a lot of people have linked SMU's coach Rhett Lashley to Arkansas, given he's from there, I think, and went there. The reason I say that is I could see SMU being interested in Will, and I could see Will being interested in that job. I think that's the type of job, as a Texas guy, resources, conference, ability to attract a good quarterback. I think that's the type of position I could see him taking. But I don't see him at a guy that's just going to jump at anything. And I think he knows, having been at Oregon, like, how it's kind of the haves and the have-nots right now in college football. So, I know people mention UCLA and some other, like, smaller jobs like that. I just don't see that being the one for him.
I agree. And it's really easy to connect the dots and be like, all right, if Will went to SMU, like, he could take Austin with him. Like, that, it's not hard to kind of paint that picture and see Novosad following him somewhere, because he was Novosad's guy originally at Baylor. Yeah, I'm really interested. One guy that really intrigues me is Kenny Dillingham. Like, he's been in line for, well, he's been a name to watch for the LSU job, or maybe even the Florida job. He, like Dan, has said, like, no, I'm not leaving. In the past, I don't think he said it recently this cycle, but, he said he's at his dream school. He's at his alma mater with ASU. I'm very curious to see, like, when the chips fall, like, what actually does he do? Like, does he stay true to his word like that? Very curious. I want to see who takes that Penn State job. I know that Brian Hartline, Ohio State's offensive coordinator, is going to be connected to that too, which would be really, really interesting. Just like, yes, it's a good thing to take him away from Ohio State, but then it's like also maybe creating another really, really good team at Penn State if he's as good of a coach as, I think he is. I think he's a very good coach, very good recruiter. There's just there's so many dominoes to fall over the next couple months. Like, this is seriously just getting started, and it's already crazy.
Yeah, and what's so interesting about Dillingham, and then also Clark Lee's in the same boat and Brent Key's in the same boat, those three guys who are all getting mentioned for even LSU, the top jobs out there, they're all at their alma maters. So it's going to be really interesting to see how these guys are valuing that versus, like, the ability to truly win a title. You saw Jonathan Smith do it a few years ago. That obviously hasn't gone awesome so far, and there seems to be rumors that he might be looking to get back to the West Coast. So it's really interesting just to follow, like, how much these guys value, like, their home and their loyalties to having played somewhere versus if you're Brent Key, it's like Georgia Tech versus LSU. 99% of people in the world go to LSU in a heartbeat, but will he? So I think that there's just so many. Though you got those three out of the top, 6 or 7 guys that are getting mentioned who all have this hometown pull, and if they all choose to stay home, this pot is going to get diluted pretty fast, and you're going to get some big time schools who are going down their lists or taking chances on guys. It is going to be pretty interesting to follow.
And then there's always the question about what Jedd Fisch will do and what Oregon fans want him to do. Do Oregon fans want him to leave? Do Oregon fans want him to stay in Washington and keep doing things there? I don't know. It was always speculation of if Florida opened, he would probably be the guy there. And now it's open. It's all right, let's see what happens.
He will 1,000% take that job if he can get it.
I think so.
Oh, I will bet anything in the world on it.
Okay.
Truly. And he'll take DeMond Williams, and it'll be hilarious. I just don't know if I don't know that he's the first guy. I think if you're somebody that wants that, which I do, because it'd be hilarious, as I mentioned, I think LSU jumping the Lane Kiffin line helped.
Yeah, it did.
Because I think that definitely played into it. So if I had to forecast right now, Lane would be my bet to go to LSU, and that leaves Florida. I don't know. I mean, there's some other good candidates out there, but I think Jedd is definitely going to angle for that job. The interesting one with Jedd is UCLA, given his family already moved from Seattle. I know they don't like it there. He has ties to UCLA. I'm not going to be disingenuous and say that UCLA is a better job than Washington. It definitely isn't, but I think that there's some other factors for him that make it actually a real conversation.
Yeah, I think so. All right, we got to get out of here soon, but let's hit some quick Autzen Airwaves before we leave.
Yeah, let's do it. We had just some amazing, I want to give a little quick Ducks Rising plug this morning. We had some amazing Tuesday morning, 9 a.m. ball talk just going like crazy. We had Hifliday, a bunch of other people in there just talking Iowa, talking scheme, talking personnel. It was awesome. So a couple of these questions just came from that and some of the conversations we had this morning. The first one being, which obviously we just discussed with Ted a little bit, but curious your thoughts on it. What specific challenges do you feel like Iowa presents?
I mean, they're just physical, man, and that's kind of what we saw against Wisconsin. At some point there still is Big Ten football, and I think Oregon is more capable of playing with it now with this roster, now having been in the conference for a year and the way that Dan's built this team. But I mean, seeing the Ducks try and run the ball early on and seeing the lack of push they're able to get, and even off Wisconsin's offensive line got some push on Oregon's defensive line a little bit early in that game. It was oh yeah, this still is just Big Ten football. I think they're so stout defensively. We're gonna get a lot of answers with the offense, seeing how they can perform against a good team, whether or not they're willing to go downfield. Obviously, the weather's going to play a factor in that, because you saw some of the balls that Dante tried to throw. It just looks like a golf shot. It's just curving through the air because of the wind. So, I don't know. We said it earlier. We're just going to learn so much about this team, I think, next week.
Yeah, it's not to kind of reiterate that same conversation from my perspective, but I think it's the parallel I've been drawing in my head is 2021 Utah and 2023 Utah. Those were two games where we were in the same situation, 7-1, going into a similar team, similar environment, and one year we completely folded, and all the questions we had about the Oregon team that we had coming in were completely answered in a bad way. And then I think about that 2023 game, which I know for me and you is one of our favorite Duck versus them ever. But what that game proved, that Oregon team came out, they set a tone, they answered any offensive questions that were out there, they defended the run, they were physical, they got a lead on a team that needs to play from ahead, similar to this Iowa team, and that was rocket fuel for the rest of their November and the rest of their year. So everything's right there for them, but this Iowa team is going to present challenges, especially early in the game. To me, it just comes down to that first quarter in so many ways.
Yep, completely agree.
All right, last questions here. Does Dante's uneven play in the last month give him a better chance of returning next season?
Oh, absolutely. I think that he's, I think we were both in the camp of he probably would return anyway, unless he got that number 1 overall pick, top 5 draft pick grade. I think I forget whose mock draft it was. I saw earlier today that still had him as like the number 2 overall pick, and I was like, really, still. Yeah, because I think he's a really smart kid, and I think he knows that he needs more development. Like, he's not ready for the NFL, and I think he'd be one of the first people to tell you that. It's, I'd rather he be playing the Rutgers version of himself, like, every week. I would rather not be weeks like Indiana or last week, but I think it does help for the 2026 roster. Helps kind of keep that intact, because, yeah, I would be, 2 weeks ago, I'd say I was probably 60-40 that he stays instead of leaves. I think I'd probably feel much more comfortable, probably close to 70-30, 75-25 right now. I really think he's going to return.
Yeah, I definitely find myself skewing that way, but then you see stuff like that pop up today. I know you mentioned like Cooper Patagna's first mock draft, and you're like in a situation where I think he can think all the right things mentally and have all the right mindsets mentally, but if he goes and gets his eval, which everyone will do, it's not like he's not going to do that, and they tell him, hey, top 5, top 10, it's like, at what point does he just need to go ahead and do it? So I think what's working in his favor is you're totally right, and that his side, his advisors, his world piece of things, I think sees the value in playing and returning and having starts. I mean, you see it with Bo. They can obviously tell that direct story of what that did for him. The small part of me that thinks he might still go is solely based on decision makers and NFL people putting a situation in front of him where he's a virtually guaranteed top 10 pick because of his tools, and then does he need to make a business decision?
Yeah, but I mean, I agree with you. I just think I always come back to it. He just seems like a smart kid that cares more about his future than the immediate next year or two. Like, the proof is in the pudding. Look at Anthony Richardson. Look at Mitch Trubisky. Like, they did not have that many college starts, and both so far have flamed out in the NFL. Look at Jaden Daniels. Like you said, Bo Nix. Like, these guys spent so much time in college, came back for one extra year, got those starts, and now they're playing really well at the NFL level. This guy made a decision to come to Oregon and develop, like, when he could have easily gone to get more starts somewhere. I think that I think he values that second NFL contract. He values that development. It's going to be stressful until he announces that he's coming back, but I don't know. I have that gut feeling that he's going to be here.
When you think about team situation too, and you got to hope that like plays into us in a way that benefits us. I mean, I know the mock draft today had him to the Jets, and like, boy, you've seen a lot of guys go into a situation like that, and as you said, just kind of flame out. We know how much situation matters when it comes to NFL and having the right guy in place and the right coach in place, ideally an offensive coach. So I think that there's plenty of examples, as you mentioned, working in our favor, and I think that the way this year is shaping up in terms of, no slight to Dylan, but the teams that needing a quarterback at the top of that draft, the Browns and the Jets, these are not teams with track records of development and success. So I could see that working in our favor as well.
Completely agree. All right, let's wrap it up there. Just another reminder, if you're listening to this, check out the Jeff Schwartz Ducks Rising Film Room, which dropped earlier today. Also check out the Ducks Rising Alumni Corner with DJ Davis. I wrote DJ James down. DJ Davis coming out later this week. Travis, you got anything to add before we get out of here?
Nope. Excited to watch some ball this weekend and keep talking Iowa. I think there's a ton to discuss. I know we'll get into it a little more next week, but good week of Big Ten football. I know we didn't preview a whole ton of it, but excited to watch a little USC Nebraska, some other good games out there in the conference, and then gear up for hopefully a fun November. Yeah,
should be a very entertaining November. A lot to talk about for sure. All right, check us out on YouTube. Find the Ducks Rising podcast on Apple or Spotify, and if you'd be so kind, give us a rating and review. That really helps us build this thing. Follow me on social media at Zachary C. Neel, and you can follow Travis at Travis Rooke-Ley. But remember, go over to Lockerverse and check out Ducks Rising. Subscribe now, support the program. Let's rise together. We'll talk to you next week.